All right, good morning. I do see that it is 11 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started while others continue to join. We want to be respectful of everyone's time because we only have 30 minutes on this webinar. So thank you for being here. Today is our third Medicaid mini webinar, Credentialing 101. I am Jessica Emmerich. I'm the Dental Medicaid Facilitator with the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health. We have partnered with the Missouri Dental provide enrollment, credentialing, and billing support for Medicaid dental providers. The Coalition is a 501c3 advocacy organization. We're focused on policy and systems change to increase access to oral health services for all Missourians. You can learn more about the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health and other upcoming events by visiting our website, Facebook page, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Today's session is going to focus on enrollment and credentialing processes for Missouri Medicaid. Our session is being recorded and will be available on our website after the presentation. During the webinar, attendees are muted, but you can submit your questions in the chat or the Q&A box. Both of those options are at the bottom of your screen. We'll keep our presentation brief and to the point. That way we have plenty of time to address all of your questions at the end of the presentation. A recap of today's presentation, including the slides, recording, and common questions, will be sent out to those that registered for the session. Okay, so to get started, I want to go over just a couple of things. Today's session is titled Credentialing 101, but when it comes to Missouri Medicaid, there is a few differences between MoHealthNet and the managed care plan. So with MoHealthNet, when you enroll, it's called enrollment because you're agreeing to the processes, the services, the rates that are already established. So you're enrolling in MoHealthNet, you're enrolling with Missouri Medicaid. When it comes to the managed care plans, you are credentialing. You credential with the managed care plans because you have a contract with them. You have the option to negotiate rates, etc. So I want you to just keep that in mind as we go through this. If we mention enrollment, that's typically MoHealthNet. Credentialing is typically the managed care plans. Providers and practices are required to have a Medicaid ID number before enrolling with the managed care plans. There's a few options there. There is an option to enroll as a managed care only provider. That would get you a Medicaid ID number in order to enroll with the managed care plans. However, it's not something we typically recommend because if you did decide to go back and see MoHealthNet patients, you would have to re-enroll and get a new Medicaid ID number. So just a few things to keep in mind as we dive into this. So today we're talking about the enrollment for MoHealthNet. So the first step is how do you even find the enrollment application? So the enrollment application is now on the EMOMed website. So this is EMOMed is what dental providers, all MoHealthNet providers will use to verify eligibility and submit claims. That is also where the provider enrollment application is as well. We're going to kind of walk through and I'm going to show you because I feel like that will be easier. Let me get that pulled up. Sorry, I should have had that one ready. But I want to show you where it's at. I am a visual learner. Okay, so when you go to the EMOMed website, this is what the page will look like. One common thing I've seen from providers is that they think they need to click on this register button. This register button is for after you are enrolled with MoHealthNet. You want to look over here under external links, provider enrollment application. We are working on moving the application to its own box. Since it's not an external link anymore, it's on the EMOMed website. So that may be moving in the next few weeks, but we will let you know when we see that happen. But for now, the provider enrollment application is here under the external links. So this page, I know that a lot of providers tend to just scroll to the bottom and click accept. If you will read through here, there's a lot of valuable information, a lot of instructions that are really helpful for completing the application. So I do recommend that you take your time and you read through this. Accept at the bottom. We're going to verify that we are a person. Okay. And then under provider type, you'll click the drop-down menu and go down to dentist. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you are brand new to MoHealthNet, brand new to Missouri Medicaid, your practice will also need to enroll. The place of service and the provider both need to be enrolled with MoHealthNet in order to see those patients. So if you are the provider, you will enroll as a dentist. If you're enrolling the practice, you'll use application 50 for clinic or group. The applications are very similar. And one thing to keep in mind with this clinic application is that this clinic application is for all practices that enroll with Medicaid. It's not dental specific. So if you see things on there that don't apply to you, it's okay. This is a generic application they use for all clinics. It's not dental specific, so don't be alarmed by that. I'm going to go back to the dental one. You click next. And you can start your application. The application is all online. If you do decide to do the managed care only application, it is a paper application. They're very similar applications. The only difference is paper versus online, and a managed care only provider typically does not need to provide the electronic funds transfer information because you won't be receiving payments from MoHealthNet. So all this is kind of outlined here. One thing I will say, after you've filled in all your information, you click continue, there's going to be 4 tabs, and we're going to dive into this new enrollment guide that MoHealthNet is just putting out, which is absolutely wonderful. So this new guide is actually going to walk you through the whole process. It has all the information you might need about filling out the application to make it easier for you so you know exactly what they're looking for. Okay. I've already been in here once. That's why it's pulling me to different areas. Let's see. Okay, so under the provider types, I can click on a dentist, and it's going to tell me everything I need to know about enrolling as a dentist. Here's an email address to contact provider enrollment. Again, a lot of really great information to get started. And I highly encourage you to read through this information. Trying to get to, so here are the steps. Here's everything you need to do. I'm trying to get to the actual, here it is, for step-by-step instructions. Here's what we want. So again, lots of information, please read. But here's what I just showed you. Here's how to get to the application through EmoMed. So what's wonderful about this guide is that when you get to the actual application, you can click on these little boxes and it's going to tell you exactly what they're looking for in those boxes. So most of this is pretty self-explanatory: provider name, doing business name, your address. One thing I would like to draw your attention to is the contact name. So this is going to be the contact for your enrollment application. So when you're due for renewal, or if they need to follow up for more information, who should they contact? So this may not necessarily be the provider. This may be an office manager. So just one thing to keep in mind there. This is who needs to get the information when you're due for renewal or you need more information on your application. Okay, so once you click continue, just as I said, there's 4 tabs here that we're going to go through. Those are here. Sometimes they're a little hidden if you don't know where to look for them. So we're just going to go through this briefly. I won't take up all the time going through all of it, but this is so helpful, and I highly recommend if you are new to Medicaid using this guide, because it is going to make submitting your application much easier. And it's going to make sure that we get the information right the first time we turn it in. That way you don't have to worry about following up and correcting information later. So this has been wonderful. So you'll fill out all your information here. Medicare provider number. I get a lot of questions about the Medicare number. If you have a Medicare number, which I know most dental providers do not, but if you do, put that in there, especially when you're doing your clinic application. The clinic application does have an application fee that is set by CMS. The rate is $709 for the application fee. You only need to pay that fee for the clinic, the group application, and then when you revalidate every 5 years. So if you have a Medicare ID number, they can waive that application fee for you. That way you're only having to pay one application fee between Medicare and Medicaid. So if you have that number, put it in there. If not, don't worry about it. It's fine. I also want to note that only the fields with an asterisk are required. So I get a lot of questions about if the provider doesn't have their own, or say they don't have their tax ID. It's not a required field. You don't have to put it in. So it's a little different. I apologize. Give me a second. So on the Medicare number, if it's a required field and you don't have a Medicare number, you can enter NA. So if it's a required field and you don't have that, you can enter NA or your MPI number in place of that. And it tells you that here. So again, that's where these little bubbles are very helpful to tell you exactly what you need to know about putting in there. Down here under specialty, so when you're doing the application, you will scroll down to dentist or orthodontist or whatever type of provider you are. When you click on it over here, you need to click this little arrow to move it to this column. If you just click on it over here, it's not automatically going to add it. So click your specialty and then the arrow to add it to this column. So again, right here is all the information, and these little drop-down menus are so helpful to let you know what needs to go there. Disclosure tab. Another thing I recommend is once you have completed a tab, click the save button at the bottom. It's just like when you're doing a Word document or you're doing a presentation, save often, save often, save often. So click save, and then you're going to get a PIN number. That PIN number is going to be up here in the top corner of your screen and here under PIN. I know there's a lot of confusion about the zeros or O's. Is it a 0? Is it an O? Is it an I? Is it a 1? So a really good trick for that is to highlight it and then paste it somewhere else into a Word document. That way when you need it, you can just copy and paste it back over. That way you don't have to worry about trying to understand if that's a 0 or a 1 or exactly what it is. So it's always helpful. Make sure you write down this PIN number, copy and paste it somewhere. If for some reason you don't have all the information you need today, you need to save, you need to come back to it later, you'll need this PIN number to get back in. Okay, so second tab is disclosure tab. That's you're agreeing to enroll with the Medicaid program. Fill out this information as much as you can. And don't be concerned about what if I click no, it's going to cause issues. Okay, we need all the information up front. It makes it a much quicker process for enrollment to have everything up front, everything included. And don't be concerned that clicking no is going to cause issues later. It's better that we have all the information up front. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about any of these, you can just click on these bubbles here and it will tell you exactly what you need to put in there. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. We don't get a lot of questions about this disclosure tab. So you'll just go through and fill out all those. And the great thing about the online application, if you click submit and it's not completely done, it's going to give you an error message and it's going to send you back to correct that. So make sure you fill out, you answer all of these. Okay. The last question here, question 16, is does the provider number need to be backdated? MoHealthNet can backdate your enrollment. If you had a patient come in, it was an emergency situation, they had Medicaid coverage, but you weren't enrolled yet, they can backdate your enrollment to cover that. So you would put that date here. EFT tab, this is pretty self-explanatory. One question I do occasionally get, the first MPI number, box 1 up here, this is the MPI number on the application. So if you're a dental provider, this is your MPI number. It also asks for an MPI number in box 5. This is with the payment information. If your payments are going through a practice, this could be the practice MPI number. Okay, and it has that on here. Okay, so that's one thing that we may see some questions on. And then last is the agreement tab. Again, save after each tab. Agreement tab. All of these need to be, yes, I agree. And please read these so that you know what you're agreeing to. As with any contract, whether with MoHealthNet or the managed care plans, read what it says. Okay, so then once you've completed all 4 tabs, you've saved, everything looks done, you'll click the submit button. It's going to file through your application. It's going to make sure everything is completed. If something is missing, it's not going to submit. You're going to get some red letters at the top that says you need to fill out something is missing. If it's complete, then it will go ahead and be submitted to Missouri Medicaid Audit and Compliance Provider Enrollment. And then you're going to have the option to print. And you want to print all pages, and that's going to include the title, participation agreement signature page. So this signature page is very important. It'll be the last page of the application when you print it out. The application part, it's going to show you everything you entered. You're going to have a copy of the application for your records. Provider enrollment needs that signature page. So that's the page that the provider needs to sign. It needs to be an actual signature, not a stamp. And then that's going to be kind of your cover page of the document you're going to fax to Missouri Medicaid Audit Compliance Provider Enrollment. Those need to be faxed. They can also be mailed, but it will slow down the process a little bit. So highly recommend fax, not email. If you email it, they will probably respond and ask you to fax it. And that's for security. If you're emailing it, if you email it to me or if you send it in an email, someone could, that's your information. That signature page has your PIN number to your application. That PIN number gets them into all of your information you've entered, all your business information, your banking information. So we need to see that fax. That way it's just for security to make sure that information isn't getting to the wrong hands. Okay, so you're going to fax. I'm going to move on to my second slide here. So here I've kind of made a checklist of what you need to fax. So you've submitted your application online, you've used the guide, you go through, fill everything out. You print, you have the signature page, you sign it. Here's your list of what you need to either mail or fax to provider enrollment. So it's going to be your signature page with an actual signature on it, copy of your provider's license or social security card if needed, and then a business organization structure form, an avoided check or bank letter. This is what you need to put all together and fax to provider enrollment. The business organizational structure form needs to be filled out completely. So it is not like the online application. So there's not any asterisks to show you exactly what's needed. Fill it out as completely as you can. Provide all the information you can. That way they're not having to follow up with you to request more information. So make sure it's filled out completely. That is one thing that we often see can cause delays is this form. It needs to be filled out completely. Again, you'll get a copy of this presentation. So you'll have all these links. Okay, here's the address, here's the fax number, here's everything that you need, where you need to send it. Keep in mind, if you're new to Medicaid, your practice is new to Medicaid, make sure you do that group MPI enrollment as well. You can do them both at the same time. So you could do your group application and your dental application all on the same day. It's not going to cause any issues. They're going to be linked together later anyway. So you don't have to wait on that. You can submit all your applications on the one day and get the process started. When asked how long it takes to enroll, we did have this down to about 2 weeks, but provider enrollment is running slightly behind right now, which is a great thing that we've seen an increase in provider applications. But currently it's taking about 4 to 6 weeks for enrollment. I do recommend that after you fax the supporting documents, you give it about 48 hours, a day or two, and then follow up to make sure that they received your fax and that they received it completely and that everything is included. They have to have that signature page to pull your application. They cannot start reviewing your application until they have that signature page with the PIN number on it. So make sure that you follow up with them to make sure they received it. If your fax comes through and it's fuzzy or it's not legible or pages are missing, you may not necessarily be notified. So it's best if the provider follows up to make sure that it has been received. And then once you have submitted your MoHealthNet enrollment application, you can go ahead and start credentialing with the managed care plans. It used to be that you had to wait until you had your Medicaid ID number before you could start the credentialing process, but they are letting providers to go ahead and start that credentialing process because the MoHealthNet enrollment is typically completed before they get to the point where they need that Medicaid ID number. So you can go ahead and start the managed care plan credentialing. And then once your MoHealthNet has been approved, you can then send them that Medicaid ID number. So again, here is just the contact information for the managed care plan credentialing. We went over that last week where we talked about the managed care plans and how to contact them. But just again, so you have everything in one place. And again, this will be sent out so you have access to these links. Okay, so you've submitted your application, you have faxed the supporting documents, now what? I've already suggested that you follow up and make sure you can contact them by email, by phone, and then here's the number you fax the documents to. Anytime you contact provider enrollment, be sure to include your MPI number. If you send an email that says, I'm checking on the status of this practice, but you don't send any MPI number, they may have more than one application related to that practice. They may have the practice and then a few providers under that same practice. So be specific, include the MPI numbers that you're checking on so that we make sure we're getting you guys the right information. During the application, if you run into any technical issues with the website, you're getting an error message you don't understand, one of the buttons isn't working right, you have trouble getting back into a started application, you need to contact the EmoMed help desk. Provider enrollment won't be able to get you back into an application if you have lost your PIN number or PIN number is not working. You need to contact the EmoMed help desk. Here is their phone number and their email address. Again, make sure you have your MPI number ready when you contact them. Okay. So that is all I had on the presentation side. Again, I could go through this enrollment guide and spend quite some time because there's so much wonderful information in this. Please go through and look at it, review it, let us know what you think of it. If you have questions about us, let us know. But we are very excited to have that available. Okay, so if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll start addressing some of those questions. We have a little less than 10 minutes left. So there's one question in the Q&A. If the Medicaid patient has emergency treatment in another state, does the specialist provider to perform the emergency treatment have to go through enrollment? Okay, so one thing about MoHealthNet, Missouri Medicaid, is we treat bordering states as in-state providers. So if you're in one of the bordering states, you can enroll in MoHealthNet and your processes are going to be the same as an in-state provider. So for an emergency treatment, I would have to recommend that you would reach out to MoHealthNet for more guidance on that, because they would have to look at the patient's eligibility, the emergency treatment, where you're located. So I can't give you a definite answer on that. I can't speak for MoHealthNet on what they would want to do in that situation. Typically, the provider who provides the service would need to be enrolled with MoHealthNet to be paid for that service. But again, I can't speak to that when it's an emergency situation. They would have to review that and make that determination. Last week, I believe I provided the information for Lee Gerloff. She's the dental education representative at MoHealthNet. She is an excellent contact, a great resource to have for questions about MoHealthNet and what their coverage would be, what their policy is. So I can provide her email address. If you want to reach out to me afterwards, I'll get you in contact with her and she can probably give some more information on that. Again, I can't speak on MoHealthNet's behalf on that question. Okay, any other questions about the enrollment? I'm not going to get into the managed care plan credentialing process because they are their own entities. I cannot speak on their behalf, but last week we provided lots of contact information for them. Feel free to follow up with the managed care plans for more information on their credentialing processes, but I can't speak to those today. other than providing their contact information. Okay, any other questions, chats, Q&As, comments? We're going to include a link to this new provider guide and the recap email that will go out on Tuesday. So if you are new to Medicaid, or even if you have already enrolled with Medicaid, we'd love to have you look through it and let us know what you think of it. I think it's going to be very beneficial to many, many providers. So if you enrolled with Medicaid in the past, there was an enrollment guide on the Missouri Medicaid Audit Compliance website, but it didn't have any of these pictures. It didn't have any of this information about what actually goes in the box. So we hope that this will really help providers and help with the enrollment process, help it to go a bit smoother and quicker, because we'll have complete applications. So I'm just going to scroll back up here, just so you guys can kind of see. Another thing on the application. So at the bottom of the screen, which I don't know if there's a, here it is. So there's 4 buttons down here. I have had providers run into the issue where, do I click finish to submit my application or submit? What's the difference? What am I doing here? Make sure you save often. As I have said, finish is going to exit you out of the application. It's not going to save first, it's to close out. So you'll do finish after you have submitted the application. And there's a box here that explains that. Which is a common error. Is I've had providers who, oops, I accidentally clicked finish instead of submit. Now I have to get back into it, which if you have the PIN number, we can recover your application. And if you have any issues with your PIN number, you can reach out to the EMOMed help desk to help get back into it. But always make sure you save, submit, and then finish. And Anna with MoHealthNet has submitted the link to this enrollment guide. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat box for you. This is an excellent resource. We are very excited about it. We've come a long ways when it comes to the MoHealthNet enrollment. Like I said, we did have it down to about a 2-week turnaround. It is taking a little longer, which we try to be gracious and appreciative of provider enrollment. They are busy. They have the same amount of people processing the applications as when there were 2 weeks, as now there's 4 to 6 weeks. So when they have more applications, it does take more time, which is wonderful, again, that we have more applications being processed. Any other questions about this enrollment guides? Any comments? Have any of you enrolled and wish you would have had this, or any questions, concerns about enrolling at this point? This has been a quiet group this year. Okay, so there's a question. If our office is already registered, does the time frame for registering additional providers go quicker? I can't necessarily say it goes quicker. It's one of those things. It's great that your practice is already enrolled, and so provider enrollment already has a lot of your information in the system. So I can't necessarily say that it goes quicker, but it should be. They shouldn't have to reach out to you as many times for additional information. As long as your application is filled out completely and correctly, that business organization structure form is filled out completely, it should help expedite the process. Okay, I got a comment that the chat is disabled, which I apologize. I'll have to look at that, but we will send that link out in the recap email that goes out on Tuesday. MoHealthNet is also going to be sending out a bulletin or a hot tip today, I believe, with that information as well. If you're not signed up for the MoHealthNet news, go to their website and make sure you sign up. Okay, there's a comment that says credentialing is still pending since June 21st. How long do we have to wait, and when can we start seeing patients? So right here, you said credentialing. So I'm wondering, is that MoHealthNet or is that managed care plans? Because credentialing is typically managed care plans, which I can't speak to their processes. I know that their credentialing takes 45 to 60 business days, so that it does take a little bit of time to complete. If you have enrolled with MoHealthNet and it seems like it's been a long time, you can use that contact information that I have provided here. I'll go back to it. So this contact information here, follow up with provider enrollment. You can reach out to them, make sure you include the NPN number on the application and ask, where am I at in the process? Have you received everything that you need? Just to confirm that they have it and they're not waiting on information for you. Feel free to follow up with them. If you're having trouble reaching them, let me know and I'm happy to help with that process. But just keep in mind that they are working, they're doing the best they can. I've been in your system over the years. How long do you keep information in your system? So when it comes to provider enrollment, if your enrollment expires, you don't renew, you don't revalidate, you're going to have to do a new application. Even if they may still have some of your information in, but if your enrollment expires, is terminated, if you don't revalidate, you will need to do a new application. And that's just to make sure that all of our information is still up to date, that we're having correct information. So even if they still have some of your information in the system, which I don't know that they do or not, but if your Medicaid enrollment is expired, you will need to do a new application. Are the rates provided on the MoHealthNet the minimum in which Medicaid insurance companies will have to abide by? So the MoHealthNet fee schedule, so the rates that are included for the MoHealthNet dental services, the managed care plans are required to pay at least that amount. They do have the option to pay more. We have seen a few instances where they do. It's not often, but they can. But yes, those MoHealthNet rates are the same as what managed care plans will be responsible for paying, if not slightly more if you negotiate that. If you have questions about those rates with the managed care plans, reach out to those contacts I provided last week, or go back on our website and the recap from last week's webinars there as well. Follow up with the managed care plans, ask them the questions. They are happy to provide that information. They would rather provide that information to you directly instead of through me. That way we can make sure we are getting you the most accurate and up-to-date information. If they send me a fee schedule for their plan, and then they do updates, I don't necessarily know about that. So it's more beneficial that you reach out to them directly and you make the connection with them. It's great to have that connection with any of your insurance companies that you're being paid by. So we definitely encourage reaching out to them and asking any questions you may have. Okay, we are slightly over 30 minutes, but I'm happy to stay on and answer as many questions as needed. To see the past 2 Zoom meetings, where is the link? So let me show you right here. Okay, so the past 2 Zoom meetings, if you're looking for the recaps on those, if you go to oralhealthmissouri.org, this is the Missouri Coalition website. You can go to resources, MoHealthNet Medicaid. So this is our page where we keep track of all of our MoHealthNet, all of our Missouri Medicaid information. You'll be able to find our news and blogs, the Medicaid miniseries, all the resources we have put together, which I have included the new dental provider Medicaid enrollment guide. And here's all of our past webinars we've done. If you click on the Medicaid miniseries, it'll take you to our Medicaid miniseries page where you can see the recaps of the past 2 sessions. Also, if you have other providers in your areas who want to attend, here's where they can register for the upcoming sessions. We also did this same series about a year ago. The information has changed slightly. We have made progress in Missouri Medicaid. So if you want to see what we did about a year ago, those recaps are here. But again, we have made some changes. So I definitely recommend viewing this year's recaps. Okay, and then that recap email that we're going to send out on Tuesday, it will also have a link to this page so that you can find this information. Okay, We are slightly over time, but I'm happy to stay on and answer any questions if there's any remaining. I'll give a few minutes if you want to enter any more question and answers in the box. From my experience, if one provider has a question, the odds are someone else is thinking the same thing. So we really appreciate any questions that you ask during these webinars, and it helps us know what information we need to provide, what we need to make available to providers, what kind of questions are out there. So if you have any questions and you don't want to answer them, you don't want to ask them during today's webinar, feel free to follow up with me after the session, phone, email, text, whatever works best for you. We're happy to work with you and help you get enrolled with MoHealthNet or answer any questions you may still have. Since it looks like we are out of questions, we will go ahead and end today's session. I hope you guys can join us again next week. Next week, we're going to talk about decoding the codes, where we're actually going to look at the fee schedule, how to read that table in Section 5 of the Dental Provider Manual, how to know a participant's eligibility. So we'll really dive into the codes next week. And then the following week, we're going to do coding claims with confidence, where we'll have Lee Gerloff join us to help walk us through some claims and show you what that process will look like. But again, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate you being here and attending and all of your questions. Have a great Friday and enjoy your summer.